For the last decade, Silicon Valley has operated on a specific assumption that the move fast and break things philosophy used for software can be applied to human healthcare to make it cheaper and more profitable. But biological reality is less flexible than code. You can push a software update to fix a broken app, but you cannot write a digital patch for a person's jawbone. Thousands of patients learned this the hard way right before the Christmas holidays. They woke up to find their ongoing medical treatments had vanished. There were no customer support lines, no more shipments, and the lifetime guarantees they had paid for were suddenly meaningless. This was the collapse of SmileDirectClub. 4 years earlier, it was a $9 billion medical giant. Overnight, it became a bankrupt entity that stranded its patients and erased massive fortunes. The disaster highlights the tension between a logistics-heavy medical operation and a business model designed for the frictionless world of software. In 2014, founders Alex Fenkel and Jordan Katzman set out to eliminate the high costs and logistical friction of teeth straightening. At the time, if you wanted a straighter smile, you had to follow a physical path, recurring in-person visits to a licensed orthodontist, paying a premium to cover the doctor's clinical overhead. SmileDirectClub offered a remote alternative. Customers could either use a mail-in putty impression kit or visit a retail smile shop for a 3D digital scan of their teeth. Once a remote dentist reviewed the scan, a series of custom 3D printed aligners were manufactured and shipped directly to the customer's door. This loop convinced early investors that orthodontics could be as accessible and scalable as a mobile app. The hype cycle worked. By 2018, private equity funding had pushed the company's valuation to $3 billion. SDC then launched a massive retail expansion, partnering with CVS to put smile shops inside hundreds of pharmacies. They wanted teeth aligners to be as easy to grab as a bottle of shampoo. To fuel the appearance of exponential growth, they burned through cash on aggressive marketing and celebrity endorsements from stars like Drainer & Green. They characterized their business to Wall Street as a high-margin tech platform, downplaying their role as a physical medical provider. This narrative was vital for their valuation. Software platforms command massive financial multiples because software scales without the physical constraints of manufacturing, a promise investors were eager to believe. On September 12, 2019, SmileDirectClub debuted on the NASDAQ with a valuation of nearly $9 billion. The market response was immediate. The stock fell roughly 28%. Public market analysts quickly identified the flaw in the tech platform narrative. SDC was a company tied to the heavy logistics of physical manufacturing and global shipping. Unlike a software subscription, where a user pays a recurring fee for years, a customer typically buys teeth aligners once. This meant their lifetime value was strictly capped. This chart explains the downward spiral. Because revenue per customer was limited, the rising cost to acquire those customers through aggressive marketing eventually overtook the profit from the sale itself. The market reaction removed the software-style valuation buffer, leaving the business model exposed as unprofitable. But the stock price was only a symptom. Behind the scenes, a much darker operational reality was taking shape. Licensed orthodontists and national dental associations across the country began sounding alarms to regulators. These professionals weren't just criticizing the company's financial losses, they were questioning the safety of the company's medical practices. They argued that the remote business model posed a significant danger to permanent human biology. This leads to the central question: what medical risks were being overlooked in the rush? Right out of the gate, SmileDirectClub found itself fighting a brutal, multi-front war. The initial assault came from competitors, primarily in the form of massive patent and supply lawsuits from Align Technology, the makers of Invisalign. But a far more dangerous threat was brewing from state regulators. In California, dental board investigators went so far as to conduct physical, unannounced raids on local SmileDirectClub retail shops. The medical community was raising serious red flags about the company's operating model. To cut costs and scale like a tech startup, SmileDirectClub was completely bypassing traditional in-person exams and x-rays. They were deliberately ignoring the vital internal medical data that dictates safe orthodontic treatment. Skipping those exams meant orthodontists couldn't spot hidden problems. For patients with pre-existing oral conditions, putting tight plastic aligners over their teeth was actively making severe gum disease and undiagnosed cavities significantly worse. SmileDirectClub was treating human biology with the reckless, rapid iteration mindset of a Silicon Valley software developer, and the disconnect between medical reality and tech startup growth targets was beginning to fracture the company. In January 2020, the media escalated the conflict. The New York Times published an exclusive investigation revealing exactly how the company was suppressing its growing list of dissatisfied patients. They were using a systematic legal gag order. If a patient's treatment was botched and they requested a refund, SmileDirectClub forced them to sign a strict non-disclosure agreement. In exchange for their money back, customers were legally barred from posting negative reviews online. Shortly after, hidden Tamar investigations by NBC and Canada's CBC bypassed those NDAs entirely. They broadcast interviews with patients who reported significant, permanent bite damage and chronic pain caused by the aligners. SmileDirectClub's response to this public exposure was aggressively retaliatory. They slapped NBC Universal with a staggering $2.85 billion defamation lawsuit. Their $9 billion valuation was artificially shielded. They were weaponizing the legal system to hide a long trail of medical casualties, keeping their public reputation pristine while patients suffered in silence. This line graph tracks the direct fallout of those PR disasters. You can see consumer trust plummeting. To compensate for a ruined reputation, the company had to spend astronomically on marketing just to acquire new users and keep the growth illusion alive. Their financial hole deepened in 2021 when a massive cyber attack crippled their internal infrastructure, severely disrupting their operational capacity. Then the macroeconomic trap snapped shut. The 2022 inflation crisis hit, and consumer demand for expensive, luxury teeth straighteners cratered almost overnight. With demand dead, their required marketing spend vastly outpaced their incoming revenue. They were bleeding cash just to keep the lights on. They had engineered an unscalable economic system. By 2022, acquiring a new customer actually cost the company more money than that customer was worth. The math finally caught up with them. On January 29, 2023, the former $9 billion tech startup filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The shutdown was abrupt and chaotic. Instead of restructuring, they rapidly transitioned from active operations straight into total liquidation. Thousands of patients were abandoned mid-treatment. They were left with potentially damaged teeth, incomplete adjustments, and zero medical support from the company. To add a final insult, these stranded patients were still legally bound to make their monthly payments to third-party financiers for a defunct, harmful product. The sudden end of SmileDirectClub proves that the Silicon Valley ethos of move fast and break things is fatal when applied to human healthcare. Innovation cannot come at the expense of patient safety. If you want to uncover the truth behind more billion-dollar business failures, make sure to subscribe to Capital Casualty and hit the notification bell.